Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of my unboxing and assembly video for the Axminster Trade AT508WL wood turning lathe. Here I'll be looking in more detail at some of the specifications, accessories and performance of this lathe, so please keep watching. And if you enjoy it, click that subscribe button and notification bell. Okay, so the first thing to say is that this is a big lathe. It is a full-size lathe, capable of turning some very big pieces. The lathe bed height is 874 millimeters or 34 inches, and that includes the feet, so there's a bit of adjustment to be done there. And the overall length of the bed is 1400 millimeters. With a width of just over 200 mil. And the actual height of the lathe bed itself is 184 mil, and the distance between the centres is 762 plus an extra 500 mil if you put the extension bed on the end. And the spindle height over the bed is 254 millimeters or 10 inches, and the floor to spindle height, which is quite an important measurement, is 1100 millimeters. The side or end extension bed length is 510 millimeters, just over 20 inches. Moving on to the accessories, there's a little box of goodies here, including some instructions. There's a sort of circuit diagram, and then a sort of exploded view of the parts. Just in case you needed to request any replacements. And then there's some more detailed instructions and a DVD for the inverter box, and then a few little boxes with all the other bits and pieces there, which we'll talk about. And it's pretty good. It comes with 2 different size tool rests. So first of all, you've got your faceplate spanner, allowing you to be able to take your faceplate off the spindle. A revolving live centre, really nice actually, with a number 2 Morse taper, and that comes with its own little push rod. Again, I'll discuss that in a bit more detail slightly later. 4-prong drive centre. You've got your nice little neoprene coated handle for the motor, and then you've got your 2 Morse taper alignment centre as well, and a push rod, and then some fixing bolts to put the side or end extension on. And then here, as I said before, 2 different sizes of tool rest. 300mm and 150mm, and the tool post is 30mm in diameter, so really solid. The spindle locking pin, it's pretty nifty, able to lock your spindle out. It's got a magnetic base, so you can pretty much stick that anywhere you like, and you just line up the holes, slots that in, and that just means that you're able to take your faceplate off. And here I'm doing that just by unscrewing 2 grub screws with a 3mm Allen key, and then being able to screw this faceplate down just means you can put the lathe in reverse if you're keen on doing some reverse sanding. So that just comes off with screws undone and the spindle locked. And that reveals your spindle, which is an M33, so 33mm diameter and a 3.5mm pitch. The faceplate is 150mm or 6 inches, and it's got 10 holes in it, and each of those are 6mm in diameter. The 4-prong drive centre, that's 25mm in diameter, and again, everything's 2 Morse taper on this machine. And then in terms of alignment, Well, straight after assembly with no adjustment, it's already pretty accurate. But if it was a little bit off, you can take that alignment center, and it doesn't really matter which way around you do this, but you just got to make sure once that's inserted into the headstock, you unclamp the headstock so that's free to move. Then clamp down the tailstock and just wind that in a little bit. You don't need too much force. That then aligns both tailstock and headstock. Lock off the headstock, and then you can pull out that. And then now when you check for alignment, so live center in the tailstock, drive center in the other, and that should line up really, really nicely. So quite straightforward. Now looking at the live center in more detail, quite substantial. Comes with its own little push rod, and basically there's a machined hole just at the base of that barrel. That push rod slots in and just allows you to put some counter traction on there to screw that cone off, and that reveals basically a ring center with a small center point. And that push rod allows you to just knock that center point out if you don't want it and you just want to leave it as a ring center. And that measures 11 millimeters in diameter. So there's a number of options with that. And again, slot the push rod back in just to allow you to be able to tighten it back up again. And then the main push rod, just over 44 centimeters in length. And then the spindle bore is 16 millimeters in diameter just, so very comfortable for a 15 mil. Now looking at the pulley access panel, so in there you've got the 3 different pulleys with effectively 3 different speed ranges, and this just allows you to be able to change the belt between those different pulleys and get those different speed ranges that you require. So just make sure that the nice wide belt, and just make sure that lines up in the grooves. So that's basically the pulleys closest to the faceplate provide the highest speed range, but actually it's the middle one that I think most people will probably use most of the time. And again, just swapping that back to the middle, checking that's seated nicely, and then locking it off. And you can see that the locking handle's actually got a little spring in it to allow you to put the starting position or finishing position wherever you like. So at the heart of this machine is a 2.2 kilowatt or 3 horsepower motor running off 230 volts at single phase, and this is a VFD or variable frequency drive lathe that makes use of a 3-phase motor on single phase power to deliver outstanding low frequency torque in that lower speed range configuration. So the pulley's furthest away from the faceplate, and here you can see there's a little diagram on the headstock, and that just details those 3 speed ranges. 60 to 1200 RPM, 100 to 2300 RPM, and 140 to over 3700 RPM. And as you move further away from the faceplate, the torque increases. The indexing ring assembly on this lathe is situated just to the left of the headstock and has 24 positions divided into 15-degree segments, not 10 degrees as the instructions say. And just in front of that is the index locking pin, so once you've chosen your position you can screw that in and lock it in place. So for example, if you've chosen position 1, that we'll just screw in there, and that locks the position. And then let's say you want to move around to position 5. Again, you have two choices. You can either eyeball that with the ring on the left or look through the window at the top, which I tend to find is a bit more accurate. And then say you've moved around to position 10. Again, you can check through the window at the top. And then lock that into position. So this is useful if you're measuring for fluted columns or doing a clock face or some sort of pattern. Now the headstock will rotate, and it has lockout positions every 30 degrees. Instructions say 45, but it's actually 30, and that will actually spin a complete 360 degrees. The control box, very handy, magnetic back, variable speed control, forward reverse switch. And then taking a look at the actual Quill, this has a digital display, which you don't see on very many lathes. And you can zero that, and then that will extend to a whopping, well, nearly 17 centimeters. Actually, on the digital display, it's showing 169.76 millimeters. And once that's fully extended and locked off, that is really extremely sturdy. So there's no budge in that whatsoever. So really stable. And then underneath is the inverter box, and effectively that allows you to run this 3-phase motor on single phase power. Quite complicated by the looks of it. So I thought we'd move on to a sort of performance review, I guess. So basically I found the heaviest blank in my workshop, and that weighs in at about 5.7 kilos. And I'm just going to mount this on a faceplate ring and use that with some dovetail jaws on my Axminster Clubman Chuck SK100. So close down those jaws, mount that, and then just expand those into that faceplate ring. Here I just thought I'd mention that the banjo height is 2.5 inches, so if you're going to have that directly under your blank, that's going to mean you've only got 7.5 inches to play with. So just having a look at the sort of speed and stability with this, you can see as the speed comes up, so up to 500, not too bad, but then you start to get a bit of shake, and then it really starts rattling around. And then as you approach over 800, 900, really starting to shake and move. I'm just putting a bit of pressure on there just to see. And as it gets over 1000 RPM, really starting to shake and rattle around and move the actual whole lathe itself. So it's important to remember, certainly when you're truing up a large, heavy, unbalanced ball blank, to stay in the low hundreds. And then once you begin turning, you know, there really is no need to go up beyond 800-900 RPM. I'm sure if I was to bolt this lathe down into the floor, then of course all of those movements would be greatly diminished. Now this lathe also comes with a side end extension bed as part of the package, and you've got the option of putting this either on the either end of the lathe bed to increase the overall length if you're turning some very long spindles, or alternatively it can attach to the side here with 4 M10 cap head bolts, and then that just gives you the option really of rotating that headstock and getting a bit better access to your bowl, and also it allows you to turn a slightly greater diameter over the side, so really quite versatile. And if you are going to put it on the end of the lathe bed, then of course you've got the tool extension post. And so here I am using the lathe for the first time. Nice controlled startup, and actually not too loud given the size of this machine. And here I am just tidying up a bowl that I'd started on my previous lathe, a much smaller model, again from Axminster Tools and Machinery. And yeah, no, I'm really happy with this lathe, and if you decide to go ahead and get it, you won't regret it. So if you enjoyed this video, then please click that subscribe button. Feel free to leave any comments, and I'll do my best to reply to any questions and queries that you may have. Thanks again for watching. My name's Kim. This is OneLifeDesigns. Stay safe.